I joined, they started firing people extremely liberally. But I'm a survivor. Yay. Basically, was still in school when I decided I want to be a graphic designer. I was really only taking my these were A levels back in England at the time. I was really only interested in my art A level, and even then, I was annoying my teacher by just doing graphic designing band posters and T-shirts and things. And it just went on from there. I mean, yeah, I pretty much passed my other A levels and went straight into design school. Skipped a year. Yeah, they took me on in the second year of my graphic design diploma. So that was a small boutique agency in, I think, Chiswick, sort of West London. And from there, I moved to a large .com agency. So again, I'm dating myself. And 6 months after I joined, they started firing people extremely liberally. But I'm a survivor. Yay. So they kept me around because I was the guy that was writing HTML web pages and doing quite a lot of Flash programming. A lot of, we were still doing interactive intros and splash screens and things that Google couldn't possibly read back in those days. And after that company, while I was at that company, I met my wife, who's a Kiwi, and I moved over here with her in 2003. I set up my own company quickly. At that stage, I could build a website on a database, build you a shop, all in CSS at the time. We were early adopters of CSS. In the web, you basically have to have a sort of dumpster fire of your skill set every 5 or 6 years. Something always gets thrown on, and you have to learn something else. But I was capable enough to basically start taking on my own direct clients and to fill in the time. I started freelancing, and that's when I first contacted Lou. And she's always looked after me. I've met other recruiter agencies, and it's always been you're not cool enough kind of vibe, really, to be perfectly honest, and that's fine. Lou sees things in people that is overlooked, and we've always had a great relationship. We met 13 years ago. With the agency, you'll always have, and with a larger agency, you'll always have, more ambitious projects. So that's really, really good to have. With the direct work, it's a little bit more, how would I say it politely? It's much more kind of pedestrian what you're doing, to the point of mundane. Everyone wants a website. Usually they don't have a brand at that point, so it's difficult. It's difficult to manage the direct work. Plus, there's sort of a cash flow. There's all of those cash flow problems, and you need to basically hustle for 1 day a week to actually keep the pipeline of work coming through. And then, just the fact of life, clients move on. I've had some clients that, literally went out of business overnight because of a legislative change. Same as if you're in if you're in a full-time role, the new boss comes in and doesn't get you. You know, that can happen. So the grass is always greener, I guess the way to cope with it is to choose the stuff you actually worry about. People don't do that. Obviously, at my age, I've had the opportunities to move into management, and I've just been like, well, hey, no, I make stuff, and so I've made that decision, and I'm at peace with it. That you know, I'm a designer, I'm the head surgeon. Someone else can do the admin. Someone else can worry about the salary negotiations and tracking the sick days. I'm just over here making you something really cool that's going to make your clients happy and give you some results. I feel like in some ways being a contractor gives me an edge. I'm sort of bulletproofed from the day-to-day stuff. You know, some people are very professional. As a contractor, a business with problems is actually a good thing because that's where the work is. So you go into a situation like you go into a contract knowing there's problems. The last thing you want to do is to add to that. So what that means is, you know, you don't engage in gossip culture. You turn up on time. You don't look at social media. You're just super focused. And in a funny way, that in itself builds trust. So the reason I'm still at Farmers 5 years later is because there's a lot of trust in the bank. I don't make withdrawals on it. You know, your best tool is your thought process. Software comes and goes. You know, I've invested a lot of time learning Flash and a lot of time, you know, learning things like, you know, old programs and freehand, and you always have to move on at some point. I'm still struggling to move from Adobe Photoshop for web design into the cool stuff that all the kids are using, like Sketch. But I can use them. I can, you know, I can pretty much design in Word if I needed to. I have worked remotely, and I would do so again. That's mostly because of Auckland traffic, and I live in a lifestyle block south of Auckland, so you can find yourself missing, you know, the opportunities to sort of make a real impact. You know, those day-to-day interactions, you know, by the coffee machine. You can really miss those remote, so it has to be balanced with something else. It gets super lonely. My kids were very young and they were knocking around the house, but when they went to school, it got very quiet, and so and that's more or less when again got back on the phone to Lou and said, "What you got?" Claiming GST, it's a good one. Get all those lovely MacBooks. There's a certain excitement about just going to a new place, and in my experience, it was freelancing was a means to an end. It was about trying out various places and maybe seeing if someone was worth it, applying to for a full-time role. So you can really get a sense of how certain agencies work, but also you can really mix mix up your portfolio, because it's quite easy to go to an agency that specializes in branding, and find that, and, you can spend a long time there and you find that you're doing, I guess, brochureware websites, and simply by going to Farmers, which is more e-commerce. I hadn't actually done a lot of e-commerce, so that's been it can be a way to expand your portfolio, sort of diversify your portfolio, diversify your experience, simply by working with different industries, because a lot of the agencies only work with 2 or 3 industries. So that's definitely one reason to go freelancing, for sure. A typical day is I'm not sure there is such a thing. That's kind of why I love digital. I could be designing some really high fidelity line art for an icon, because it's really important for UX and user journey. Or I could be writing some JavaScript just to get this offer showing up on certain products across the store. So I don't know what a typical day is going to be like, and I think that's why I kind of like this current contract, and really I love what I do. So I was in a pretty happy place, and before my car crash, I was kind of at peace with things, and then, and then yeah, I sort of kind of came to being cut out of my car, and I was like, oh God, what was this for? I really didn't feel like I was I needed any kind of life lesson, but there you are. This is the sort of thing that happens to you in life and career. People, people move on, and budgets dry up, and things change all the time. I was I was fairly zen about everything. The the accident was really bad, and I was in a wheelchair for 4 months, and I was back at work within 6, and I probably should have waited, because there were other injuries. I needed further surgeries. I've had 6 over 2 years, in fact. So you read a lot, or you hear a lot on TV, how people turn these things into positive, into, hey, I learned Esperanto, and I built a irrigation scheme for the whole of West Africa from my sick bed. I wish I could have done that, because it's exhausting and it's tough. But one thing that was really great was that in my contract at Farmers, and again, this thing about building up trust, was that I used to joke to them. I used to say, I've done it this way. I've built it right because I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and I want this stuff to work. Yeah, my approach is to take the brief, um, and there's an old joke, you probably heard it, but how many designers does it take to change a light bulb? Answer: does it have to be a light bulb? My advice to me, I would say be careful of the things you're supposed to want. That's true in life as well. So my advice is to use a male-centric term. Don't spend years peeing in the wind. Move around a bit more when you're young. Try freelancing. Try contracting. Try agencies of different sizes and industries. And just enjoy it. I just go where the work takes me. So as a contractor, I guess even with the amount of goodwill I've accrued and some of the dependencies, I keep trying to remind my benefactors about. Someone could still see a line in a spreadsheet that's got my salary in, and say no, that's we can't do that anymore, and that's life, and I've got to be ready for the next thing, and I'm okay with that. I've had my knocks, obviously, so it's just like bring it on. The industry is as exciting as it was 20 years ago. Product design and startups, there's no shortage of those. It's really exciting stuff. Augmented reality is really exciting. It's going to be built on the web same way as the web was built on telephone lines. But mark my words, the applications for augmented reality are huge. It's going to be life changing, and it's not VR where people have to kind of isolate themselves in a sort of handbag across their face. So it's a good time to be a designer, and it's going to be what I do until I retire.